listening to episode 151 of the SBP podcast, Mobile Filmmaking, and I'm your host, Susy Botello. Welcome back to another episode of Fade into Film. In this episode, we welcome Jason Rivera. He has been a part of this panel, but he wasn't here last time. So this time he's participating, and we welcome him with open arms and open microphones. Also, I wanted to go through some of the topics that I'm going to cover with our panelists. I think they're pretty interesting, and I think you'll find them interesting. And there are probably things that you have on your mind. We're going to be covering, I hope, AI benefits and cons. Is art human? What about storytelling? Or are we just going to give it all away to AI? That's artificial intelligence. Another topic is, will a new smartphone really make your film better? We all know that the iPhone 15 is coming out in a couple of months here. And so just wanted to throw that question out in case you didn't want to throw more money at a new phone to make a movie. So do you really need a new phone? Do you really need a new smartphone? Whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone, a Sony phone, a Pixel phone, whatever you want to use to make a movie, is the current phone that you have good enough? And what genres can benefit from smartphone cameras? I wanted to chat with the panelists about that. I, for one, feel that horror films really benefit from smartphone cameras, and I'll give them a few examples, and I'm sure they'll give back some examples of their own. But those are three main topics that I'm planning to cover in this episode with our panelists. And our panelists are Ryan McDonald, Levi Austin Morris, Erica E.T. Taylor, Joey Min, and Jason Rivera.
We are Fade into Film.
I'm Susy Botello, and I'm the host of the SBP podcast and founder of the International Mobile Film Festival by S. Botello Productions. And I'm in San Diego, California.
Hi, my name is Ryan McDonald. I'm a writer, director, producer, actor for feature films and short films, and I am out of Ogden, Utah.
Hi, I'm Levi Austin Morris, and I'm an actor, writer, director, and filmmaker in Los Angeles, California.
I'm Erica E.T. Taylor, and I'm a visual storyteller, video producer, and mobile filmmaker from Houston, Texas.
Hey, I'm Joey Min. I am the creative head for Art School Dropouts, a YouTuber, but also a filmmaker, and we are located in New Jersey.
I'm Jason Rivera, a music composer based out of Los Angeles, California.
All right, gang. How you doing? We're back.
Woo!
Yeah.
Whoop whoop. Whoop whoop. It's so good to get to have you guys back on the show. Fade into Film. This is awesome. We really enjoyed. I know all of you enjoyed the last episode. If our listeners haven't listened to it, it's episode 150. But we have, as promised, our newest panelist is actually present today. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Hey, Jason, would you like to just sort of give us a little bit of a introduction to who you are so that everyone, as they're shaking your hand virtually, can know a little more about you.
Sure. I'm a music composer based out of LA. I've been writing and composing music for a couple decades at least. And I score films. I'm currently, I had just received the script for my 12th project that I'm going to be working on, coming up pretty soon. That's me.
So, and Jason was also in our 149th episode of the podcast where you can get all the details. 'Cause one of the cool things I found about Jason also, he's a little bit of a prodigy. Jason started writing and composing music when he was 4 years old. Did you guys all know that?
I did not, actually. That's amazing.
No.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah. So
Superstar.
That's very
To
cool,
actually
yeah.
know what you want to do at 4 years old
Yes,
is kind of
right.
and
nice.
he started out with a Fisher Price recorder.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Oh,
That was my
classic.
first, I consider that my first studio.
Cool. I love that.
Like recorder, as in like the flute thingy, or the...
No, it's a tape recorder. So this was like,
tape-
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
sorry.
when tapes were kind of still around more. Yeah, it was a way to just kind of jot down ideas. And I remember being like 4 or 5 years old and hearing melodies and chord progressions and stuff in my head. And so I couldn't play any instruments yet at that age, so I would just sing them into the Fisher Price tape recorder.
Do you have any of those recordings?
Crazy.
Because that would be
Can
amazing.
we play them back in this
know, no.
podcast?
That would be nuts.
If
It could be the background music while we record.
That would be so awesome.
If I had those tapes, I would, of course, I would share them with you guys. That'd be amazing. I don't know where they are.
That'd be crazy. Yeah. That'd be cool if everybody could like actually like share their very first like I guess produced thing of your field,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I will not be
Yeah.
sharing mine.
I can,
Oh yeah, no, it's mine. Mine is
talk about
terrible
Mine
too.
were
But
on
like,
VHS.
hope you kept it right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they were on
excellent.
VHS. It was
Yeah.
me running around pretending, like the cop shows. Like
Yeah.
I forgot how that song. You know that song. I'm really bad with the lyrics.
bad boys. What you
Yeah,
gonna do?
exactly.
Is it that one?
With my big VHS camcorder, running around like a teenager, through the streets and chasing boyfriends and things, and just yelling at them and just kind of being obnoxious. But I have no idea where those things are right now. So
Oh no! So I used to shoot on my first video camera was a SVHS, so it was like it wasn't the mini tapes, but it was like the quarter.
no, it was
quarter
super
size.
VHS.
Yes,
basically.
and
Yeah.
and I still have that
Yeah.
camera as well. I don't know how to charge it up or anything. Yeah, but I just have it as kind of like a relic that he's. But I mean, my first short film was 25 years ago. But I've got it. I could share it. It's on YouTube. I at some point I saw it ahead of time. I was like, I don't think VHS machines are going to be around for very long, so I better convert this to DVD while I have a chance. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I used to also stick my camera out of my friends' cars when we were driving and shoot a bunch of freeway scenes, and then I would plug it into my camera into my VCR and play CDs through the amplifier and the receiver and all that stuff, and I would record like Tesla and things like that in through it. So it would be like music videos, and I would edit them on the player on the camera.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
some
it was
like
the
yeah.
old way, and it had a
Some
fade in and
yeah.
fade out button on there and stuff like that.
oh yeah, so when you hit record, it automatically faded
I
in,
think
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
love
it
that.
had a button.
I
It
love
had a
that.
button. It was like it would go video black and video,
Oh, okay, yeah.
video in, fading into black and fading out. Anyway, it's kind of like I can't even believe that right now. I remember that.
I remember my
oh man, I think mine was a Panasonic palm quarter. So it was actually the smaller tapes.
Yeah, I had the
Yeah.
smaller
You know.
tapes. That's what I had.
Yeah,
Mini
I would.
DV?
Yeah, to like use the VHS, we have to put it in the. No, it wasn't mini DV.
High
It was
8?
like I guess it was high 8. I can't really. I have it, and I guess I should just look at it. But I would use the same tape. I would just keep recording over and over
Yeah.
again, since I could just plug it into. Like I had a capture like card for my PC back then for the video. Just it was only video. There's
Right.
no sound, right? So
Wow.
and I would just edit stuff, and I was like, middle school or
Yeah, we
something.
always found a way to get, I made a ton of music videos. I just loved adding music to my videos because, why not?
Yeah. I was like a Windows movie
Oh my
maker kid.
God.
Yes.
Windows, was that
Yes.
Windows 95?
Oh yeah, dude.
That
The
was
best.
probably, I
The
think.
best Windows.
Yeah.
Right.
E.T., you have any stories?
My first produced thing. I want to say it started in print actually. And this was like my early 20s. I finished playing like college, still in college, but done with playing college basketball. And so I started writing for the school newspaper, and I was the only person writing in the sports for sports. So my first articles were all print. And this was the time also where Facebook was like the leading social media platform.
Yeah.
So I would write up my story. I would post it to Facebook. Probably just a handful of people liked it. I used I don't know, I can't remember the name of the camera, but it was one of those square silver digital cameras to take photos.
Oh, I know what you mean. Those digital cameras that we all used to, yeah.
Yeah. So I used that to take photos and video, and then so I was early on.
Those
I
were
guess I
hardy,
was
though.
making
Those were
content
thick.
early on.
That's awesome.
Say it again.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
I do have to ask you, ET, though, because I don't know your age, and you don't have to reveal it. But like, is this circa like early 2000s, or is this like
Ooh.
mid?
It's like, who's your
2000s?
Batman
wanna
when you're growing
say-
up? That's how we'll gauge it.
That's a pretty good question.
I would say, almost mid. So I want to say maybe 2009 when I first published my
I
first
just
thing. But I was like,
So you're a
early
baby.
20s.
okay.
Sort of. Sort of. But I think I got you beat, Levi. I think I'm older than you, though.
No,
sure.
you're not.
For sure.
No. I'm
What-
36.
What's interesting?
Oh, snap. We're the same age, Levi.
Yeah, heard it here first, guys.
Well, dang,
What's
you look
interesting is
better
that
than me, and I hate you
for a bunch of filmmakers who we've all kind of collectively come together around a mobile film festival, and now we've all shot something at least on a phone. It's interesting how we all have an origin of before that time, though.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of funny, right? Don't you? I think though, like now that we've done, like like filmmaking, right? Like I think we can take older cameras and like know how to use it,
Yeah.
now, right? And I think that's the same thing with phones, because like obviously this phone is better than like I had a DVX, and this thing is like way better than that, and it's like a lot simpler to use, right? Like
Yeah.
an iPhone. So,
And the cameras
like,
are constantly improving, which is just
Right.
exciting to play
So
with,
this is
but,
kind of
yeah.
like
Yeah,
the War of the
exactly.
Worlds, right? With like Tom Cruise. Just humor me. Hold on. When he's like, all the cars stopped, right? And he knows what he needs to do to get this one manual transmission old car started and get it going. And this is like us, right? If the apocalypse type thing came up and our phones are like drained and we have no way to charge it, we don't have a USB thing or anything, we can all grab our old camcorders and we'd know
Camcorders?
we'd know how to run it.
That's funny.
like I kind of have mine like like on display just to remind myself of the history that I
Yeah.
had. So.
Nice.
Okay, let's see. So Ryan, what have you been up to lately?
Sorry, I feel like we covered this topic last week. Lately, what I've been up to, man. I'm currently working on. I did a short film back in October, and it's a werewolf short film, and I just thought that that everybody in the acting and the way that the makeup came out was so spectacular. We're shooting for a festival that was in. So I'm in Utah, so it was in the Salt Lake area festival. We only had a couple weeks to hit the deadline, and when it came to the makeup and special effects, like none of us thought we were gonna, what could we really do in that time period? And so, but we've since then, we did win best special effects, and I just thought, I was like, man, it's too bad it's only 6 minutes. What if I started this? And this is like as long as I've been writing for 20 something years and whatnot, this is still the amateur idea of me. It's like, oh, you have this really cool idea, but you don't know the journey that's going to go or anything. So I'm starting to write a feature script around that 6 minutes so that we don't lose the 6 minutes that we like shot of that short film. I'm starting to create the storyline around that. I'm sure everybody here has had that moment where it's like, you have a really cool, like, what if those two guys in the car, but then you have to build 120 more pages around it, and then you start to find out like where the thin cracks in the ice sheet are. So that's what I've been working on right now, and I'm about 80 pages in. So it's there. The problem is I haven't typed out the finale though, so I don't know. I don't know where the fat is to trim, but what I have learned is that it's best just not to go back right now and edit anything until I hit the end. And then
it's too distracting when you do that. Yeah.
So that's been like the main thing I've been working on the last little bit.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
Wow.
Levi, how about you? What have you been up to lately? Any more awards?
I mean, no, not no. I'm just gonna say no. I'm not gonna say not yet because I don't like that energy. But I'm proud of the film.
You should be confident with that.
I'm proud of the film. I am very proud of the film. I did just book a flight today and a hotel today for an upcoming festival, and it was much more expensive than I anticipated. But that's life. And so I'm excited to go there in August.
It's gonna be hot.
Yeah,
wherever you go.
It's yes, it is. It's going to be hot. Yeah. So that's what I did today. Other than that, I've been working on my script as well, and I'm 64 pages in, so not as far as Ryan is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where's that fest, Levi?
It's in Indiana, but I'm not allowed to say what it is yet because they want to announce, I guess, before we do. So I'm just saying it's.
I flew to Indiana in 2018. I will say where I went. Heartland Film Festival. It was their inaugural short film festival thing there from the same festival. And they flew me out there to present mobile filmmaking. And it put me up in a nice hotel. It was fantastic. I had a great experience. I met a lot of people there, and I really enjoyed it. It was so different than being in San Diego.
Yeah.
But everything, I went through downtown and everything looked like,
very similar.
The Walking Dead places, because it was so different. It was so, in a way, like Georgia, So, what were you going to say?
Yeah, there's a lot of nature. I would say I'm from Minnesota, so it's going to be very similar to where I grew up. Like it's the Midwest, so I'm prepared for the weather and the nature, which will be nice, as opposed to the palm trees and the dirt. So yeah.
Hey, how about you, E.T.? What have you been up to?
Hey, so mainly, or what's been on my plate as of recently. Has been videos for Good News A-Leaf. So August 9th and August 11th coming up will make a full year that that video series that I created, Good News A-Leaf, will be in existence. So coming up on a year now. So recently filmed a community football camp. And recently filmed also a community, kind of like it was called the Backyard Party, where there were performing acts happening on stage. There was a group providing food. It was outdoors, so a family-friendly and good vibes environment. So Good News A-Leaf focuses in on the community of A-Leaf. Or side or area in Houston. So A-Leaf is in the southwest side of Houston.
Oh.
Yes. So it's an area that I grew up in. I'm from. I went to A-Leaf schools, and A-Leaf is spelled A-L-I-E-F.
Kind of like relief.
No, so like A-Leaf, A-L-I-E-F.
Yeah.
so, so, and I have to say it like that because people from A-Leaf we're very proud of our area, our community. So I'm always going to make sure that it's said properly. And so it's called Good News because it's really about spotlighting a lot of good things, good people, good happenings in the community, to also showcase that and kind of push forward a narrative that sometimes doesn't, or a lot of time doesn't get pushed forward, and a lot of negativity may showcase about A-Leaf. So Good News is just a way to say there's a lot of great things happening here. It's been happening here, and I'm able to use my gifts to showcase that.
Yes, excellent.
So it's like a community based on a positive, right?
Yes, indeed. And you can see a bunch of videos, a bunch of photos, and just a bunch of content on Instagram. So if you go to @GoodNewsAleaf, you'll see a lot of that happening, or you'll see a lot of content there for that. So that's been one of the things I've been producing lately.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's sick.
Joey, what have you been up to?
Oh, I've just been editing for other people, I guess, and I'm also trying to find the time to finish editing our second feature film for Art School Dropouts. And so that, yeah, it's just, I'm just one person doing everything. So
Oh, I understand that. I get it.
it's like, and like, I guess it's just this time around, I guess we're trying to mix a few technologies together, I guess, because like we never really said it, but our second feature film, it's kind of I guess the tagline is like our it's like we film it's a virtual reality film, well, like 93% of it kind of thing. And so it's like I guess one of the goals was to actually like show a virtual reality film that is not like super science fiction. It's not like Ready Player One, where it's like this very fantastical world where every IP that's ever created is like in this virtual world. It's like something that you could kind of like it's virtual reality that is accessible to people now. Like if they saw, like once they see the film, they're like, oh, okay, like that's really cool, and then they're able to actually do what we did, and kind of thing like that. And it's
Is it
that's what we're working
interactive
on.
in some way, or
No. It's still just a film, right? And but with the story that we like Art School Dropouts does, we're very like feel good, martial arts comedy type of thing. So this thing is like a kind of our, I guess our us trying to stake our head on a bigger story than what we are capable with because of resources. So being in the virtual reality, we have like our action films are a little more, blockbuster.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's not pure mayhem, but it's it's a much bigger than what we are able to do now.
That's cool. That's
Right, so,
that's
yeah.
challenging as well. So
Yeah, so and I think that's what was taking us like really hard, is because the fact alone that when we have this system, I don't know how to explain it, but basically we're actually filming inside virtual reality, so we're doing the same things. Like I actually had to build a camera, build like cranes and
Wow.
jibs and all this other stuff in virtual reality for us to go into virtual reality to like maneuver that equipment.
Interesting.
And I think that's kind of funny. So it's like filming a film in a
fake
I don't know,
world.
in a fake world, right?
Yeah.
And so we were hitting a lot of technological obstacles simply because like, okay, no one has ever done that before, right? So it's like, okay, we're trying to figure it out. So that's why it took us like a bit longer, but we're
For
trying to
10
we're
years.
post production now.
Oh, that's cool. Jason said something earlier that he was working on a short film, right, Jason?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it hasn't been shot yet, which I actually like, kind of coming in at that spot.
Yeah.
But I think they have almost a final script, which I actually read today. And yeah, it was really good. I can't say too much more about that
Right,
particular
you signed an
project. I'm not
NDA.
allowed to. I sure did.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm excited about it, and after reading it, even more so. I'm
for you.
excited.
Yeah. And for you guys
Thank you.
to know that Jason likes to come in before the production.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Just as somebody who has worked with a composer, I find that absolutely fascinating because, my composer was a part of, he's been a part of every production I've worked on,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't come in and he requests not to start working until I have it picture locked, because for him it's like he needs to understand the beats and the timing and everything that I'm going for. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I've worked in both ways, maybe probably at this point almost half and half in terms of the projects I've worked on. But I actually like working with a director earlier on if possible, because then my music can actually have an influence on the production in a different
Yeah.
Like there was one project I worked on where it was a horror film, and it was the same kind of similar situation where I had the script and I had written at least a couple cues, and then they liked those cues so much, the director and producer, that they took them to the set and they were listening to my music while they were shooting and stuff. So it's just a different, I think it's kind of more collaborative in a way.
And I'm influenced heavily by music, so I love that idea. I think that sounds awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's very collaborative, and for what I do, I think it requires a little bit more imagination, like especially if I'm just writing based on what I'm reading on the page, and a conversation with the director. But then of course, like if there's time, there'll be tweaks, later down on the road when I have footage, then we can go in and like line things up, and we can have beats. But also there's also a kind of fun thing that happens with editors too, because if they have my music, then they can cut to my music too.
Yeah.
Which the directors I've worked with so far seem to like to do that. So yeah, I think it's a really collaborative and fun way for me to work. So
that's fantastic. Okay, did I forget anyone this time? We covered everybody.
Nope.
Yeah, that was everybody.
Okay, I thought so. But just in case, didn't want to do what I did the last time. So I wanted us to cover some topics now that I wanted to throw these at you guys. I wanted to cover one of them. It's kind of like a topic that's been going around all year long. Really fast-moving topic, AI. The benefits and the cons of AI. Is art even human? And that's the part of, because AI covers a lot. Obviously, it covers everything that we can imagine and then some. But trying to stay on this particular platform of art and filmmaking, storytelling, and all that goes into it, AI does have apparently some benefits, but it also has some cons. And I wanted to get your guys. I wanted to. So I'm going to include a link for our listeners to go to something that I wrote about how AI. The question that I raised: could it be AI that writes the story of humanity in the future, and how it would do that, and if that would be good or bad? Would just have an opinion on that. We really wouldn't know until that time when we're not writing our own stories, we're not telling our own stories. So I'll leave that there, but I wanted to talk to you guys about this, what your thoughts are. So if you guys want to, instead of me going down the line and asking each one of you, if you guys want to just chime in.
Sure. I'm gonna hop in just because I'm super passionate about this subject, and I've been getting in arguments with various people. I think AI is a great tool to assist, but I think it is a dangerous tool to sort of allow to take control of our storytelling, our art, our stories, how we connect. I think that we as artists, I think the thing that is special about us is that we are able to feel, that we can learn from each other and experiences. And I think that for each of us, our voice is unique. It is what makes us individually us. And that is not something that AI can do. AI sort of aggregates and collects information from things that already exist, but it's unable to have an original thought. And so it will never push the boundaries in our industry. It will never push what storytelling can be. And so it is something that frustrates me that there are studios and executives that are considering that, because to me, what I connect with is human stories and
We
humans.
also,
And
I think, too, what bothers me on this subject the most is the fact that I look at it from two sides. I look at it from the part of, do we want people to consume stories that AI tells, right? Or humans? And then on the other side, do we want to keep telling our stories? Because there's the expression part of art is something we need to do. Sometimes we're making and creating things.
it's therapy.
Yes.
I see, and that's
It's
why,
very
that's why I
therapeutic.
say, like, I
May
feel
I?
like art's kind of a yin and the yang. I mean, there's the studio machine can put out the content that they put, but that doesn't mean necessarily that the audience is going to take it. So you have two sides. I mean, at any point with any of the people who are here in the panelists, like, just because AI can do it, does that mean that we're going to stop creating art? Exactly.
No.
So, like, there's going to be. I feel like AI is like,
That's a good point.
it's the new CGI in a sense. Like, it has, like, at the end of the day, it's like we all can tell where
We
there's the
might
CGI.
stop. We might stop because we didn't grow up in the future. And in the future, if AI is creating these things, who's to say, right, that in schools they don't support that? You know, like, we grew up in art classes and writing stories and all these things. In the future, they may say to kids, you don't get to do that anymore. So they may not know
I think you could
or feel
you
that.
could create a sci-fi world where there's, like, AI doesn't allow humans to have art form, and then yet the art form does it. I mean, at some point in the, like, evolution of, like, the fish hopped out of the water, at some point when it grew the legs, there was a drawing there's, like, the caveman drawings and things like that. Like, at some point,
Right.
Yeah.
it's inherent. It's like
Right.
certain people are the engineers and certain
Yeah.
people are the storytellers in a tribe. And
Yes.
there's, I think,
Yeah.
even if you have AI doing it, like, even if the big machine, even if that's all that Warner Brothers and Disney, if all they ever did was do AI movies, I still feel like there's going to be, like, us who are like, well, I don't have the money for the AI to make my
Yeah.
screenplay. I guess I'll just have to go back to writing it. And then I'll write it and I'll shoot it with my phone. You know, like, and
Because, like,
yeah. And there'll be an audience who will be like, there'll be an audience of, like, purists who are like, oh, I only watch, just like right now, there's an audience of purists right now who, like, they don't watch. I know a lot of pretentious people who don't want to watch the Marvel stuff, and I know a whole bunch of people who watch nothing but Marvel. They won't watch anything with subtitles.
Yeah.
It could be the same thing. It's gonna be, you have people who are like, all I watch is, like, human form art, and then there might be other people who are like, I just
Sure,
love
right,
the AI.
because, like, if because if you think about it, actually, like, since we're talking about AI and what is actually just kind of regurgitated, I don't know if anyone else here is, like, because I am kind of a YouTuber, I guess, like a filmmaker on YouTube, and seeing the generations on YouTube, if you think about it, like, if we're talking about like AI generated content, I mean, there's people that are people that only create algorithm based content,
Yeah.
So it's
And
not
I
like,
hate them.
yeah, it's
That's also another thing that's happening with AI and art too, because there are people out there selling books that are completely AI
Yeah.
and making things, and they're the ones
But
that are
then
telling you can make $1 million, but and I made 15 books, sold
Right.
them for $15,000 each, and
Yeah, but as you can hear it though, they're not artists. They're just
They're
I guess-
business
they're just
people.
business
Right.
people,
Maybe
right? But at the same time, if you
Question
think about
inside
it,
the
though,
artist, like, do I
yeah,
want to
like,
make $1
I
million
mean, if-
making my own art, or do I want to make $1 million making AI art?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
Or do I want to
mean,
struggle
obviously, though-
and just self-express?
Yeah.
Because like that's
Right,
sort of
right.
the
It's
journey.
like
that,
it's my catharticism and the audience's catharticism.
I think that's like
right?
I think that's really what YouTube is, right? The whole like, do I want to struggle or do I want to make my own art?
Yeah.
Right? Because in the age of clickbait, right?
Yeah.
Like I think especially in well, I guess in like indie films, right? Or at least not even indie films, like YouTube films, like for the way for you to get views, right? Is like I'm just gonna hop on like $1 billion IP because everybody knows it already. Because I don't want to make my own story to tell because I know I'll get like three
It's
people
true.
to view it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like especially in our I guess circles too, like in the action film cinema, everybody just wants to like, oh, we redid the episode 2 Witcher 3, episode 3 or something, or here's like this popular IP that we just kind of
Yeah.
remade,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. And it's like, and that's the way, because obviously a lot of those people want to be unit people and they want to be hired by Marvel or Disney or whatever.
I just think
but,
there's also
you know.
for children, right? That their
Yeah, and that
cognitive
too, right?
development
Because-
is affected by all this, excuse me, but crap that we're putting out there for them to consume. They're writing children's books, through AI, and parents don't know how damaging that is for children to consume, as opposed to spending time consuming books that are written by humans for the purpose of developing their brains.
Yeah, but so I'm gonna play the
But don't
devil's
you think
advocate.
that to develop
but like,
their brain?
like SpongeBob was developed by humans, and I would say it's almost just as damaging. Like to be fair, like we haven't done our best either in every spot, right? So, but AI is only gonna regurgitate like what we give it, and I think that AI is gonna. I think that I don't really believe that the power of it is going to be to a point where I think we've fictionalized this matrix idea that we're all batteries and whatnot so far that it's the idea that like I think that even we'll get to a point where we get tired of AI, where like it just starts rehashing itself, just like we're seeing right now with like the Marvel movies, and people can shit on those, but like there's a time where it was nothing but war movies. Like remember that Saving Private Ryan, Thin Red Line era, right? And then years before that, it was there's a time where it's nothing but Western movies, right? And so yeah,
I mean, I will say though, I think that part of that is.
Oh, no,
sorry, go ahead, finish. Oh, I was just going to say that I do feel like though that it's partly the executives looking at things as this is what's currently selling, and so let's continue to pump these out. Where it's like they're not taking chances on artists who have original, unique voices and stories to tell.
Yeah.
Because it's unproven, it's unproven, and you
Yeah.
don't know if it's gonna make money,
Yeah.
right? So that's why.
If it's not a
So I
certain
understand
cash
it,
cow.
but at the same time, it feels kind of, it feels icky, right? Because like I've seen a lot of short films out there made, obviously it's not like the next primer or something like that, but it's like it's a very good story, like and obviously with the skill set like these people could do, and it's still given the chance to grow and mature, there'll be
I don't
great
know if you guys
storytellers,
saw or read about this, but there was somebody a few months ago, I think it was a few months before the festival in April, that I read something on social media about somebody who actually went out and had AI write the screenplay and their shooting list, their shot list. And the AI actually even told the camera person what lenses to use at what point, and all sorts of things like that. So it was literally like experimenting with AI making a film from start to finish. so that the camera person basically wouldn't have to really do anything other than follow the instructions, like, like an architectural plan or something.
It's like
it was
IKEA
very
films.
intricate. Right?
It's like IKEA films. we give you the template, we give you the shot list and everything, and you make the film.
Yep.
Like after that,
What cameras
Yeah.
you put in there, what camera you got, and what you want to make it, and it'll tell you, like, for each scene. It would even do the color grading input, all kinds of things. It was just incredible. And I just think, what microphones?
Yeah, is it done? I kind of want to see
Yeah.
that, because that sounds exactly like this. I know for this production house that they do, promotions for, like martial arts schools that I know, and that sounds exactly what they tell the martial arts school owners to film their
Yeah.
promo, so they could edit it like that.
Yeah, I'll have to look for it and email it to you guys or something if I find it, because I think the conversation on that was pretty incredible. And the question was like, well, is this going to kill filmmaking? I'm like, no, man, it's still, there's the art in film. That's a very, I'm always talking about the science in filmmaking and then the art in filmmaking. And the science part, I think, with everything AI can cover, and the art part is the stuff we can screw up or make better.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, even if AI told you to use that lens, like, isn't there the human element where you still look through it and you go like, nah, I don't like that shot. Like, at some point,
if
like,
you
it's-
know
yeah.
to do that.
But I think that
Yeah, but what
Yeah.
if you never developed
Right.
that?
I mean,
skill
just
set?
like the dads in the night, we were talking about the old VHS tapes. And just like the dads in the 90s didn't know how to, like, zoom in and zoom out with, like, doing that, like, massive jump from 10 times, 100 times kind of thing, right? I mean, at some point, I still think there is, at the end of the day, if there's any human input to it, there's still going to be the X factor to it. And even if all of the content that's put out there by the big studios is going to be AI driven, we still, us who do not work for Warner Brothers, still have the option to do whatever the hell we want. And we still
As
get to
long
be
as
the,
we
it's
have
still the
the
Wild
will
Wild
to
West
do
for
it.
us.
As long as we have the will to do it, but
Right.
the will comes from our own experiences and knowledge as well.
right.
But I mean, I will say though, because this is something I've talked about in therapy, because
Aw.
it stresses me out. I think that we as artists, like, I think we always have that drive, and so it's not even like, if you are an artist at your core, you're not gonna stop. Like you're a storyteller because there's something in you that is like, I have to tell this story.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not even that, like, I mean, I think it was Joey who just made the comment, like, well, what if you don't know because you don't have the experience of, like, what lens you should use. Like, there's an instinct or something in you that's like, this isn't fitting. This isn't what I want. Let's switch this up, And I'm saying that from my own experience, because my experience is mostly in storytelling. I come from a theater background, and so moving to film was new for me, and it's been a decade-long journey. But having moved to film now, like, I am discovering my voice and my perspective as a filmmaker, and it's something that I'm constantly growing with. So yeah, I think it's an instinctual thing that, like, artists will never
do you
lose,
think, E.T.?
Yeah.
I think with AI becoming more prominent, it'll be like almost like literally like Rage Against the Machine with
Yes,
human
snaps to that.
storytellers and AI. I think it'll push, or if not already continue to create opportunities to where underrepresented communities or underrepresented audiences can get their will kind of fight more to get their stories told, because yes, AI could do a great job in telling, let's say, in giving us another Black Panther or
Right.
giving us
Yeah.
more Black Panthers, but could AI
Interpret
tell
that
the
properly.
story? Yes, or not even, or let's say a rising Black filmmaker or a rising Latino filmmaker or any person of color. Could they could AI tell that story in particular? And so I think I see it as a rage against the machine, like literally now. And yeah. So
And I think it'll
and then
just
maybe
move that
even
whole thing forward of, leaving people of color out.
Well, yeah, I was gonna when you said that
Yeah.
ET, I thought, well, there's not even already a ton of existing films,
Black
like big
history.
films. Well, just media that's mainstream for AI to even pull from
Yep.
to regurgitate.
Yeah.
true.
So
yeah.
to me, that seems like there's gonna be
A
folks
very
left out.
Caucasian.
But and I would say, we
And-
were
and that's
having
where
that
mobile
Caucasian
filmmaking-
problem though. Sorry to cut you off. We were having that representation problem before AI came around though. Like that's
Of course,
that's-
it's just
that's-
gonna
make
it worse.
That's
Well,
the
yeah,
thing. Is
I'm
like,
not saying-
But if
it's like,
that's
it
what they're
wasn't
pulling
AI who
from,
did this to
yeah.
us. It was like us doing it to ourselves and misrepresenting. I say this. I'm a white guy, white male, heterosexual. So I'm certainly in that class that unfortunately has been horrific to everybody for thousands of years. But like but at that time, it's like that was the representation. It was the misrepresentation for a long time, and so of course the supercomputers can be like, oh, I guess that's just the way we go, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
heartbreaking part.
Yeah, and that's where, like, I guess if I can kind of round up, I guess that's where mobile filmmaking can help to start to level off
I agree
that,
with you.
because if now with being able to make short films, feature films with our smartphones, that's an extra or another opportunity to create more stories that hasn't been told with that. So,
Yeah.
and then it can kind of bring up a discussion. Well, you produced your film with AI. So what? I use my phone if you produced your film with AI.
Yeah.
Right?
At least my,
Yeah.
people in
Because
mind are real.
that's
so.
the key right there. Because everybody has the phone as opposed to the other cameras.
Yeah.
That I think what's happening is we'll get to a point where if that's kind of my dream, that more people are making movies with smartphones because more people have them, then how should I say this? The amount of films that are out there, right? It's more about who's louder. Hollywood, right,
Yeah.
is louder, but you still have more content through smartphones after all.
And even with the strike right now, I do feel like there is sort of like Mark Ruffalo right now is calling for people to go more indie, and I support that. But building off of what like ET is saying, I'm so passionate about the indie circuit anyway, because like we're able to tell the stories that we don't see in mainstream movies. Like I'm driven by queer storytelling, and it excites me to see queer stories on screen because it's not something that I got to see a lot growing up,
Right,
right.
So it's very exciting when you see an artist that you resonate with. And that's the key word, an artist. Like I love to find artists that tell a story that make me go, damn it, like geez, I felt that,
Because
That's
that
true.
is
Yeah.
what it is. It's very emotional in a way, as far as, and I don't mean emotional like people crying and things like that. I just mean it connects with our feelings, and the artists are about expression. We need to express these things, and we turn
Yeah.
to art to do that, as opposed to things that are horrible. All right, before we take too long on AI, we'll have to touch back on this again,
Well, I do have a question.
I was going to say,
go ahead. Sorry.
if I can interrupt. So before we leave the AI part, what's interesting is, so in the mid 90s, there's an absolutely amazing film called Gattaca that came out. And that director later made a movie in 2002 called Simone, but it's also spelled like Sim1. It's like S1MONE. Has Al Pacino, 2002. And it's a director. Al Pacino plays a director who gets so frustrated with an actress, she walks off set, and somebody approaches him with the technology of being able to like do an AI, as we will call it now, like version of the perfect actress to put in his movie, she becomes so massively popular that everybody wants to know like who she is and where she's at. He even does like a concert thing where there's a hologram of her and thousands of people are watching it, and it kind of like it became the AI he created became better than his art, and then he later seeks to destroy it. And it's just really interesting that like now, like 19 years later, we're tackling this subject, of like what happens when the artists create the AI.
Yeah.
There's another movie that's even older than that. Albert Finney was in. It was called Looker.
Okay.
And
yeah,
where it's like a murder mystery thing, but as it turns out, the actors are all robots, basically, that look completely human, and they were replacing the human actors. So if you want, if you want to see that movie, that's back in the 70s or something. It's like old.
Oh wow.
So I mean, this concept has been going, and then iRobot, with Will Smith is very philosophical in a way.
I do have a quick question for Jason though. So for acting and for yes, acting because they're scanning actors or they want to scan actors now and use their sort of likeness for as many projects as they can, as well as potentially doing it with the scripts. Is there any threat at this point in the music side of things?
For sure. I think the first thing I heard of was a couple months back. There was, AI. People are using AI to make fake collaborations. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but like the first one I heard was a fake collaboration between Drake and The Weeknd, and it was released, and the fans didn't know that it wasn't an actual track released by the artist. So it's been going on in music actually for some time. So yes, and I think some composers are a bit freaked out.
I mean,
Isn't there like a whole genre of music made just by like Vocaloids, right? Like
so my little film festival song that I made, which is where the slogan "The red carpet is in your pocket" came from, was an old app that I had, because I told you every app there was, just about, I would download it. And I was, it was basically from some band or something that created this app. This was on the iPhone 4. And it said, we have this style of music, and if you just make up a tune, right, we will turn that into a song. And it was...
So you have been doing it too,
Susie. I did it so long ago, I didn't even know. It was like 2010. It was like after the iPhone 4 came out, and I made this little song, with it. And I reached out to them too, because I was like scared that if I used it publicly, they were going to sue me for copyright. I was so naive back then. But it was. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. It's just that now. Like the article that I wrote, it was something that I was already thinking about because of the algorithms of the internet. This was before ChatGPT and all that came out. But if you think about ChatGPT, which is the one that made the headlines, that's one aspect of it. AI has been happening for years and years and years before that. It's just been called different things, and it's had different uses, and it just hasn't alarmed people like it is now. Now this ChatGPT thing happened, and 6 months later or something, it was like OpenAI with the biggest, I think they were like a company trying to do something good, and they went for profit, and it just went crazy,
Oh, you're talking about Replica AI. I think I read about that.
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Where it's like some lady actually made an AI program to help her like deal with like the loss of a friend of hers. So I guess like she fed like this AI program that she made like her friend's, I don't know, whatever personality or whatever, so she could kind of talk to it. Then she made it for profit, so people could use it as well.
I was talking about
this is 100%
OpenAI.
Black Mirror.
OpenAI was made at first to be sort of open source for everybody. And then they got a lot of funding and everything like that. And then they went for profit. I don't have an account with them. I had an issue with their privacy thing. And so I don't have I'm probably the last person on earth who doesn't have an account with OpenAI, you know? But yeah, so, all right. So let's move on. What do you guys say? Oh.
Sure. I feel like that's like a very big topic.
But I think
we
we touched on it, and we can come back to it because I think it's just going to be something that we should go back to and keep going back to. I think, especially because of what we all do, you know, I think it's important. So what do you guys say? I think this one may be pretty important to our listeners. What will a new smartphone really make your film better? We know the iPhone 15 is coming out soon, and other Android phones are going to be coming out very soon. And there will be people out there telling our listeners, hey, you want to make a film, you want to get the latest phone because that's going to have the best camera on it. What do you guys think?
Well, of course the manufacturer is going to sell their product. So they're going to tell you, even if the only thing they changed is just the glass on the lens, like they're going to tell you it's the latest and greatest. I can say for myself, I shot a feature film on an iPhone 6. So,
and it's still good.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it didn't die
that.
because now a new phone came out, right?
Yeah. I mean, are there some things that I learned, and I currently have an iPhone 11. Which I'm still dated on when I say that. But to me, it's like, oh, this is really great. But I mean, there are some things I could benefit on, sure. But I think that like the latest and greatest phone.
But I think with anything though, like even people would.
Yeah, it's
say,
like, do you golf with Nike or Top Flight? Like, I mean, or is it the golfer?
Yeah,
right?
I think. Look, Joey can answer to this because you're on YouTube all the time, Joey, and so you know that 99 out of 100 YouTube videos is on camera comparisons and the they're not called authorities. What are those YouTubers called? Yes, the influencers.
They're the authorities now.
Yes, the authorities.
I like that. They're the authorities.
Well,
but that's the
there's
thing
no
too,
authorities.
though. Like,
But the influencers, right? They're there to influencing is more like selling. It's just another way of saying.
I mean, they're literally being paid.
And
yes,
they're getting their products.
But even though, like in the indie filmmaking world, right? Like so, like you have like the film school like elites and like the like the homebred filmmakers, right? Like like you could, if your film is good, your film is good,
yes,
right? But
yes.
there's I think a lot of the elitism of anything, there's like that gap where they say like, oh, if you don't make your film with an RA or something like
or
that,
red,
then it's not a film. Or if you don't spend like minimum like 500, like $500,000 on your short film, it's not a real film, right? Because it's not industry standard. And I have friends like that, right? And it's like, it's so very frustrating because it's like, because sometimes it's like telling a story shouldn't have to limit you, with your equipment, right? It doesn't matter. Like, okay, cool. Like that's your thing and you're doing Hollywood standard because you're whatever, right? But like, I like this person's story who filmed their stuff with, with a Sony A7 III or a phone or a Canon, like 7D, who cares, right? But if it's good and that story resonates with me, then what's stopping other people from liking that, right? It's just that I get it when there's the point in time where the technicality of filmmaking gets too
pretentious.
Too big.
There's so much more than the video.
Too pretentious to the actual story.
To it. Like I'm thinking about Jason. Jason. Thinking about you right now. We were talking in our episode, 149 with you, right? About how having good music, right? The film score, the right one, and everything. How the quality of that film can be raised by that. And the audio, like Levi, the good audio that you have on your film Paralysis without that good audio, it just brings down your film to like half the quality. So it wouldn't matter if you used, a $20,000 camera if the audio is not good.
Yeah.
So there's other aspects of it, and
Yeah.
that's part of like, the same thing with smartphone filmmaking. A lot of people don't get is that you shouldn't really, if you're making a narrative film, if you're making a documentary for B-roll and things like that, even, it's okay. But normally you don't attach audio to a camera when you're making a film anyways,
I mean, building off of what you're saying, like I started shooting iPhone films in 2014 when I had an iPhone 4S. That's all I had. And I was very passionate, and I just had stories that I wanted to tell, and it didn't matter, if the picture quality was going to be to industry standard. I just wanted to tell the story. And like eventually I moved up to the 6, and I lived with the 6 for a very long period of time. And I will say at this point, having shot on 4 different iPhone films, I think the 6 was actually my favorite. I really enjoyed shooting with an iPhone 6. Paralysis was shot with both an 11 Pro and a 12 Pro. And there was a lot of frustrations with that because Apple has now created this sort of dynamic range thing that causes, even when you lock the lighting, like it causes issues. And so like no matter what new technology, like it might be a better camera, but there's still going to be some sort of issue with it. But for me, it's like, it's just the instrument I'm using to tell the story that I want. And my favorite compliment that I've gotten from reviewers and from people who have just watched the film is, I forgot I was watching an iPhone film. And I'm like, good, because I want you to get lost in the story. Like it's not about the fact that I shot it on on an iPhone. It's about the story.
But it's inspiring. It's inspiring that you shot it on a phone, because that way somebody who's watching it knows, oh my God, I got a phone too. But it doesn't have to be. I've been coming up with this. When I first started, the film festival and things like that. This is way too many years ago. But the first question that people would ask me is like, well, which phone is better? And I was like, oh my God, really? Like it.
Whichever one's in your pocket.
Whichever one you want to.
Yeah.
And also, and now here we are, 2023, right? And people are still asking the same question.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're pretty much what we're telling our listeners is that if you want to know if you should get a new phone, right, to make a better film, you don't need to.
Yeah, let the story
just make
be
a good film.
The driving. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, finish your script, tell your story. Yeah.
Yep.
But if I'm just talking about the technical, like the actual presentation of what the audience sees or something, I think audio design, like sound design, is much more important. Like,
yes,
you'd see people that, like I said, they would film stuff on an RA, but then for some odd reason they want to make it look like it's from the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, why? What's the point of that, right? But the audio is still very crisp.
Audio is always more important.
That's what I've been learning.
They say it's half the picture, and I'm like, no, it's more like 80% of the picture.
It is.
Yeah.
My favorite film from 2015 was Tangerine by Sean Baker, and he shot it on, I think it was an iPhone 7.
It was a 5S.
5. Okay, thank you. Yeah. But the audio is incredible, and like even though like the image might not be the most incredible thing, it's an incredible story. Like it's so.
Moondog Labs.
I have
was
to like check out all of these
Moondog
things.
Labs. I love that.
It's not just reverse shot stuff. I mean, there's some things in there that he's pushing the camera. He's taking also advantage of how they can shoot on sidewalks without getting the permits and things. I mean, there's a lot that they're doing with that. And I'm not saying anything against the audio. I'm just saying that like there's a lot of benefits that they attributed, but also the way that the camera moves. It's just not just using the phone and putting it in front of the actor. It's the way that they're pushing it here, there, things that like really.
Oh yeah, the way he shot it is beautiful.
Sorry to interject.
I was also going to add to that is.
Go ahead, Jason, please. Yeah.
Part of it is learning the gear that you already have and taking it.
Yes.
As far as you can until you kind of hit a ceiling, and then maybe you need to upgrade.
I think that's a great point. Yeah.
But isn't that the thing too? What I was saying earlier, though, with like once you feel like you hit a ceiling, then you upgrade, then you learn other things, you realize like you could go back to your older equipment and be like, oh, I could really push this thing now,
Yeah.
like way farther than anyone,
Yeah, I think the
So
key
I think that's
is
kind
is
of cool part of
knowing
it.
how creative you can get and how far you can challenge yourself before you hit that ceiling. Because in a way, we're always hitting ceilings in this industry that we're in. Because we always want to push it. We always want to make that cool shot. We always want to make that cool scene. Ryan was talking about, the difference between acting, right, and directing the last time. And how sometimes he films something, right, Ryan? You film something and you're like, oh my God, that was awesome. That was just like these, like some famous director shot made or something like that. So,
I mean, even going back to the AI conversation, though, like what we're saying right now, that's not something AI could do. Like the fact that we are all learning the equipment that we have that is available to us, even if it's like considered one of the lowest grade cameras, like the fact that we're finding ways to push the boundaries with it and do exciting things that AI would never think
that's
about
so
doing with
true
it. You
because
know?
it's not human. It doesn't have
Yeah.
the desire for it. Doesn't even know where to find
Yeah.
a desire to challenge itself in that way. It can only pull from what's already there. That's interesting. Okay, one
Right.
last thing now. What genres can benefit from smartphone cameras? Don't speak. Let me say this one. Horror. I think horror is one of the genres that really benefits from smartphone cameras. And I'm just going to give you one example of why horror does that. Well, I'll give you two. One of them is you see the films that were in the big theaters and they made like, I don't know, 15 of them by now, of the ones of the 15 of them, and I already forgot the name of it, but you'll understand what I'm talking about. The ones where the houses are haunted and their phones are picking up stuff, and then they use the home cameras and all those things to capture what's happening in the house without them knowing while they're sleeping and things like that. The new found footage films, are also another one. But to me, one of the things that I've always thought iPhones would be really cool for in horror was because you could give the perspective of the victims from it. I was in a Halloween podcast episode, and I was telling Aaron Nabus, giving him a shout out here. We all know.
Yeah, Aaron. Love Aaron.
So I was telling him about how you could have the victim holding the camera, right? And you could and as the bad person was dragging the body across somewhere, the victim could give the perspective of their point of view of the killer dragging their body.
Susie, you need to write a film.
I know.
That's your film. Like that's
Yeah,
there we go.
You can
Yeah.
all steal that scene now, but but that's one of them.
and then submit it to the International
No,
Mobile Film
that would be
Festival.
horrible if I
See if
submitted
the
to my
judges
own
will
film
take it.
festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are one of just imagine that because I think it's easier to give. You could even tape it to a cadaver, not a real one, guys. Like a fake dummy or whatever. You could tape it onto a bag of sand or whatever you're using to pretend it's a person, and you're not that worried about it. I don't know about giving my. I mean, I know people will do it, but I think the angle, because it's such a small camera compared to something larger, would become more intimate in a bad way, in a horrific way, than I think a big camera with big lenses would do.
So I'd love to comment on this because I did shoot a horror film with a
Yes.
mobile phone. Also my second film was a POV film. So my second mobile film was and actually I submitted that to you, and that was the first film that you accepted. So thank you. And that was in like 2015 or 16. So I feel like I absolutely see what you're saying, and I 100% agree. I think that the horror genre is an exciting genre to film with with an iPhone or with a mobile phone. It doesn't have
Right.
to be an iPhone. The thing is, I guess you have to decide ahead of time if the picture quality, like how much that matters. Like if you're shooting POV, I think grainy footage is acceptable. I think it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you are shooting something like I attempted with paralysis, it's a little more technical. And I think that like we had to pump a lot more light because the phones are still not yet prepared to shoot in low light. So I think going into making a horror film with a mobile phone, you just need to sort of have a clear idea of what you want. If you are doing POV, there's a little more flexibility. And I think if you're doing something a little more thought out or cinematic, that you're trying something that way, then I think you just need to be prepared to pump a lot of light even in the dark scenes,
Yeah, there's a lot of post-production work that would be challenging.
Yeah. It took me a year and a half with post-production for paralysis. It took us 16 days to shoot it, and it took me a year and a half to edit it.
Yeah, but you're
so,
meticulous, and that's
Yeah.
why you won so many awards.
I'm anal as hell. Yes. So yeah. Yeah.
What about you, E.T.? What do you think?
I would say experimental films, for sure. As far as being able to, 'cause in the space of experimental, you're already going against just conventions, and I think it's just a matter of creativity of what you can do with your mobile phones. Experimental films are some things I want to get more into with my mobile phone. So I love that aspect. And then my next thing would be documentaries. I feel
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
mobile phones. I mean, I do that pretty much for myself in a way, just more short form documentary style. So I would love to see more or be able to produce more longer form documentary style with mobile phones. So
I think one of the things that I've seen because of what I do with documentary forms with mobile phones is that people make the mistake of always just, yes, you can, and they're great for documentary filmmaking, they're great for B-roll, they're great for a lot of things, but they forget that in more film narrative style documentaries in some way, interviewing people is still a big production. And it's not about let me just grab you on the corner of the street and get the audio straight out of my phone and have these people cheering in the background. That's not an interview that belongs in a documentary. It's part of the B-roll,
right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's even matters based on the person you choose who can give you that that element that pulls an audience in. Because you can interview anybody and they can give you
because you want experts.
Blank answers so someone who can really be a personality just naturally while still connecting with your audience well. That matters too before you even hit action or film.
I have a strong connection to documentary filmmaking for personally, so
Yeah, so actually, I have a question actually for the documentary people here. Then, how about those? Like I said, another YouTube question here. What about those people that actually produce, like a higher end vlog? Because like the idea of like a non photojournalistic style of documentary, right? Like, would you still consider that
yes,
like
of course,
a viable documentary?
It's just so documentary is still a story. You're still telling a story. And when you're documenting something, there's one thing. So when you're out and about and you witness something and you document it, that's part of a greater story. And what happens if you have the documentary filmmaker personality or whatever, then that challenges you. I want to get the whole story behind this one thing, right? That urges you. Documentaries also change while you're making the documentary. The story can change on you based on facts and things that you find out about it, But it always comes from the perspective of the person that's documenting, I should say, I'm so sorry, documenting the story to go out and tell the story around that one piece. And with vlogging, for the most part, from the ones that I've seen, it's just someone telling their own story, but they're not going out and capturing the other perspectives, which is why, the documentary filmmaking that E.T. and I are talking about, you go out, let's say you want to talk about, the whales or something, what's going on with the whales. You want to go to the Marine Biology Center or the university. You want to get experts and things like that.
Well, right. But what if, like, since I understand that vlogging is a very selfish type of
Is it?
narrative, right? And well, yeah, I mean, if for the most part, right? So if vlogging, if I'm talking about, oh, hey guys, this is my
Right,
day or
right.
something, right? And it's
Oh,
I'm
I
just
see
oh,
what you
I'm,
mean. Yeah.
and right, and it's like I am the expert and I am the content, and if that's the purpose of it, then wouldn't that still fit
Well,
the whole
so
like
there is the perspective of this is my story and I can tell it. Again, if it's story based, right? It's not really selfish to share your own story in your perspective. It's how you go about it. Does that make
okay.
sense?
Yes.
You're
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually do watch some of those vlogs that you're talking about because I'm constantly trying to consume mobile filmmakers, and so some of those vloggers are mobile filmmakers, and so I've seen some that it does feel like, oh, this is really interesting, and they're telling a story about their day, and then there are some that feel a little bit like this is just artistic shots that I'm setting up, but there's no connection at the end of the day, and so I understand what you're saying, Joey, because it feels like both exist. Yeah.
It always comes down to stories. I like it.
Yeah, it really, for me, it comes to a story, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think in that kind of an aspect, it's almost like you come into the middle of the story, right, and you never leave.
Right. Yeah, I guess so. It's because it's sometimes, like certain people have a way of telling their own story that's actually
Yeah.
kind of interesting, as a
Mhm,
filmmaker.
yeah.
Like I watch, I'm like, oh, I really like how they did that. I wonder if I'm able to apply that to, whatever story that I might want to tell in the future. But, keep that technique or that idea in the Rolodex of ideas in my head, So that's it. I just wanted to,
Yeah, I just think that, I mean,
ask you
I'm
guys that.
fascinated by, documentaries. I think they're highly important in our society, to be able to do that and to do it well, because in the end, you have to have a purpose almost. With every good documentary, there's a purpose to it. And I think as a filmmaker making documentaries, you ask yourself those questions. Who does this benefit? Who am I reaching out to? They do have a target audience as well. And what is my message? And what do they kind of insinuate, if they're not blunt about it, an action at the end, like something that you do. Well, I just learned all about someone with Alzheimer's. I want to give to this charity, things like that. All right.
Well, moving away from kind of the vlogger part, but like on the iPhone, I would ask the question as far as like, what's the best genre for the iPhone? I'd say it actually goes to like, why the iPhone, or why not the iPhone, but like why a mobile film? I mean, so is the best, because for any particular project, it could be the why is because it's budgetary reasons. The why could be because it's in your back pocket. There was a time where my why was because we could. It was like a challenge. Like, can we do this? Let's do that. And almost or it could be the why could be. As we were chatting, I was thinking about the movie Collateral by Michael Mann, and I thought to myself, I was like, he shot that on digital when digital was not a thing to do, and the why was because he wanted that LA background in all the shots. And you can see he kind of did it in heat a little bit. There's some exterior shots of the heat where there's there's a De Niro and the girlfriend are on his balcony, and you can tell it's kind of like the background is not real, and it's because he wanted that LA background, but he couldn't shoot it on film. But then by Collateral, he can shoot Tom Cruise and then have all of LA's like background behind him because of how much light it does capture.
In post-production and stuff too.
Yeah, so sometimes it comes down to is what's the why, and it can be because nobody will notice us shooting this movie on the street, and we don't need a permit to do it. That could be the why.
Yeah.
It could be the why is
That
because,
is a
you know,
big aspect.
yeah, absolutely.
Because
actually,
there's
too,
a massive benefit
and
to
as
shooting.
Susie always says, because it's in your pocket, right? And it's like we can always whip it out and have it right there, and we're ready to shoot on the fly in a documentary style. So I'd say yes, I do agree that horror is easy to pick in that sense because like horror films notoriously are not $100 million movies. So budgetary wise, that can narrow down. I would say the genre could be indie, right?
The intimacy of a shot, of a scene shot with a mobile phone can be really scary if you don't want to be intimate in that scene for that particular purpose. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to the intimacy of, shooting waves at the beach, or even food stuff. It's like, oh my God, I'm so there for that, but somebody is hacking my foot away. I don't think I want the intimacy in that scene, right? And that can be so morbid.
Yeah, I just feel like the same way that we argue, iPhone or DSLR is probably like on a higher end, the same way one filmmaker might say, 35 millimeter, and the other one says, no, I'm going to do 70 millimeter. Like IMAX, like it's the same.
Or somebody wanting to force theaters to show their film by rebuilding the entire theater, perhaps.
Yeah, and so there's.
You guys hear about that?
Yeah, and I think, it's the Oppenheimer thing, right? Yeah, because you got Die Hard
Tarantino did it too.
Yeah, and so I'm saying is like is there a why behind it? And I think that for me, there's been times where the why was because the camera person, the person who had the camera, because I'll be honest, I haven't upgraded a camera since the Canon GL2 back when it was shooting.
Oh my God,
DVD.
I used to have that one.
I still got. I'm staring right at mine, right? So I've always worked with a DP who had a camera, but there's been times where the DP didn't dropped out or something like that, and so we were sourced to the phone. There's another time where the why was I was wondering, can we shoot on a phone? I was like, that'd be really cool. So it depends on the why, and and if the why is like, I would really love to see this in 70 millimeter.
Yeah, I guess that's why, right? Like we with the earlier thing we were talking about, like the wall that we kind of put on ourselves that the AI would never really break. It's because I guess all of our perceived ceilings is just there. We just once we get new ideas, we could just break it, right? And an AI would never do it because it's the why. It's really the why. That you're talking about.
Like, what is the reason that I'm telling the story right now? Like, I think that drives it more than anything.
And how bad you want to tell that story.
Yeah.
The driver.
So ultimately, don't you think then? Because I guess from hearing you guys too, and I was thinking about it. I think in a weird way, AI would honestly just stand to benefit like the writers and the creatives because there's a lot of obstacles for us, right? Like trying to create something, but then if like a lot of the lower base level needs are met, we're able to like stand on a new platform to reach new heights.
Yeah, it's like graphics. Okay, there's like all these automated things that you can get as plugins for Photoshop and things like that could make your process so much faster, and apps do that, for graphics and things like that. So yeah, there's some truth to that. The problem, I think, is the ingenuity that you can do something as a human being. You can go through the problem solving process and invent new ways of doing things that can ultimately be very efficient.
Yeah. But also, like, I don't know. I guess I'm going back to the AI conversation.
We're
I just feel
there
like,
again now, anyway. So
yeah. I just feel like there's like I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought, but I just feel like we wouldn't have movies like Everything Everywhere
No.
all at once
Yeah,
if
we
we didn't.
wouldn't.
Like AI would have never made something like
Nope.
that, you know. And so we need like, and my fear with AI is just that we're gonna lose. Like, I feel like there's a big enough audience that will embrace the AI films. And it just
It's
worries
like,
me. I
remember
guess. I don't know.
last time when we were talking about the templates, right? AI would be really good at doing that because they're already there.
Or
What do you mean
The templates for making those big buster
I mean, yeah.
films that generate a bunch of income that people want to go and see
Sure.
the show and, you know, and whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Ryan,
well,
you
I
were
was
going to say
gonna,
something.
okay, so I think we've all seen at some point like the stuff that's like Batman, if like Kurosawa had directed it, right? Kind of images, or like if Wes Anderson did Star Wars, and isn't in a way the person who's able to type that algorithm out or whatever you need. I don't know if the word's algorithm, but the way that they're able to tell the AI to do that, isn't that its own art form in a sense? Because like I've typed in a couple things. I was like Bruce Willis is James Bond, and I got crap. So like
No, because like,
I-
isn't there that
isn't
that
the
group?
ability to do that like its own thing? And I feel like as we rehash over the AI, it's like I mentioned this earlier. Like all of us have shot on something way before the iPhone. So I'd imagine that we all at some point have edited in a very linear fashion. And I would imagine that Susie,
I know I did. I
can imagine
yeah.
a time where we used to do it tape to tape, right? And so the conversation you have from tape to tape to the like, oh well, look at this crap they're doing now with these kids. All they have to do is just a video file, but they have to convert the footage from the digital into a
Look
or
at all
from
those
a
skaters.
tape file
They're
to
just
a
like
digital
gonna
file.
grab a
Yeah,
phone.
like
Yeah.
are we at the end of humanity, or are we just at the next like crux of the same conversation we have as artists decade after decade, right?
But what you guys are saying though, sorry, I mean I don't mean to interject, but like the idea of like when you guys are saying like tape to tape, like I think there's nobody that I think nobody holds the idea of like, oh, this is how you cut, footage together. I think editing that is just that's just like as simple as like brush stroke of a brush, right? Or a pen stroke. But what you're saying about with the AI, it's like there's like this thing that happened on YouTube again recently. There's this group. They're like a special effects company. They're called Corridor Digital, and they were promoting the fact that they can make like they can make anime already, or like something like animated works. But what they did was they took their AI learning machine and took the style of very classic famous like animators and their style of art from back then, and they fed that into like a machine, and it just redrew whatever they filmed like in that style. Now what you're saying is like that's the difference now. Like they're actually taking somebody's
Yeah.
art style and applying it like a filter to their video.
Jason, right? Somebody comes to you and says, I want to use your music in this film that I'm making, but it's all porn and murder and it's, and all this stuff. You're going to go, not my song. I don't want my song to be related. I mean, I'm thinking that you would say that.
You can
I don't
use
want
my
my
song.
song to be used in that, so that when people hear my song again, they're going to be thinking about that, because I can't use that on a Disney movie or something later. You know what I'm saying? So there's that also.
There's also, and there's a very, I don't know, for me anyway, with music, like it's sometimes really hard to separate a visual from a
Yep.
song. Like once I see like a Jimi Hendrix song or something in a car commercial, it's like really hard for me to separate the two. So, I mean, I guess it's one thing, like if his estate, as one example, is okay with that and they need the money or whatever reason behind it. But if the artist has no say whatsoever in it, I don't know. It's just kind of like a free for all.
Yeah, there's so much of that. Okay, so listen, what we're going to do is we're going to have to go back to AI again, and we'll try and pin it down to one instead of, like we'll talk about specific parts of AI that are bothering the heck out of almost everyone who's listening to this. And we'll analyze it more in detail because I think, we really need to talk about this.
It's a pretty hefty
It really
topic,
is, and it's
yeah.
actually more important than a lot of people realize. Yeah, especially, I mean, even within this conversation, we've opened up each other's eyes into, perceptions that are like, well, hold on, maybe for that. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the idea of automation is not, that's, that does affect like
Yes.
unit people, right, in Hollywood, right? And I get that, right now they're, the biggest topic is like, oh, the writers and the creatives, and obviously I think that we know that you will never be able to really replace ideas, right? So you will always need those creatives. But what if now you have like this robotic AI like sound, like like sound guy machine, right? Like, with that, like, is that like a big deal to people?
That's iRobot right there, where they took the technology of artificial intelligence and put it into a physical machine that was a robot shaped like a, had arms and legs and could run and flip. I mean, we have those two technologies. They're just not together right now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, like the like commercial filming, like they have those robots where you literally can dial in like very specific like camera movements, right? I mean, would that replace cameramen? Is that like,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, you still need a person to actually tell it what to do.
Yeah.
But what if it's
So
the technology
like,
itself that's telling it what to do, though?
But that's the thing. I think we all know as the creatives, right? Like you would never get rid of the conductor
not.
of the art
Yeah.
of
That's a
everything.
great way of saying it.
As long as we realize the value as humans, right, growing up 3 generations from now,
Right.
that is that is good for
Yeah.
us, that we get to experience that and see the potential for what it can do for us. Because like we were saying earlier, with I almost called you Eli, Levi, about the problem with not knowing the therapeutic aspect of art, is that you miss out on it and you don't even realize that you're missing out on it.
Yeah, and there's also something to physical tactile experiences with materials that I'm not saying it's bad, but to use computers or tablets or whatever, but there's also, I think, there's something tactile, so I have a young daughter, and so she's obviously like really interested in iPads and stuff, and that's fine in moderation, but I'm also like, well, how about we just get some paper and crayons and draw together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Going
having
out there
me
and
personally
feeling the
having
sand
studied,
at the beach between
The,
your fingers,
Mhm.
things like that.
it's just a different experience, a different tactile experience.
Right.
And it opens you
shoot,
up.
let me-
It opens
wait,
up your
I'll-
imagination.
I'll stand in for Ryan, and I'll be like the devil's advocate.
Oh, we
on
got
this
a lot
one.
of devils here
But wouldn't-
tonight.
Because he's from
like,
Jersey.
right? Yeah. But like, I do agree with everything. It's just that, but would you want to also limit, like, say, the newer generations from learning the technology that will be, propagating the future, right? Like, shouldn't they know, like,
Absolutely.
what's going? So that's
Yeah.
I kind of
That's
I
why I
agree
said
with
in
you, like,
moderation.
both ways. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because actually, I was
'Cause, like,
thinking earlier today, just thinking about in music and technology, and just thinking, well, a violin is a piece of technology. It's really old, and we kind of it's just really accepted now. But it's also at one point it was new, and it's evolved over time, and so have computers. So I've been trying to think about it, just AI in terms of it just being a piece of technology, but it also has other layers to it, obviously, economic and business layers to it, as well as creative.
We are definitely going to be talking about this again for sure. There's no way around that. So, how do you guys think we can end this conversation on a more positive note for our listeners?
Tell the story you want to tell.
Right?
Like, just do it.
By the way, our film festival is accepting submissions of films, smartphone photos, screenplays, short screenplays. We also added to the rules no AI stuff. So
Nice.
I always
Applaud
have this
that.
thing about editing from the beginning, where no app or software that automatically makes edit decisions for you is allowed. But I've added the AI aspect to it.
I didn't even know there were apps that do that.
There's those ones that will create a montage for you on your iPhone itself. It will do that. Even
Wow.
that's
Yeah,
always
they're
been
about
the case.
10 years old
Yeah.
now.
Where
Or
have
at
you
least
been,
10 years
Levi?
old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm that far behind. Where have I been?
Come on, Levi.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
But how can you tell
well.
though?
I just
How-
the footage has encoding and things like that, but don't ask me to prove it, because everybody signs a contract with that thing, and if we catch them. If they get caught, they're going to be once they're in, they get publicly embarrassed, because we'd have to tell people, oh, they're disqualified.
This person did that. yeah.
Obviously that's not
Yeah.
something you want on your
man.
record.
Wow.
They used AI editors.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But it was just something.
Now I'm curious what the apps are. I use Final Cut. What are these apps?
So, I mean, think about it. For a film festival, I mean, all film festivals need to do this, but there is a film festival that is actually accepting only, I mean, it's encouraging it. Yes. So, you know how you
That's
guys
not even
know, right? So I'm very big on the arena, right? Being an equal opportunity for everybody as far as the competition and all that
Yes.
stuff. And so it would be ludicrous for me to say, oh, yeah, but AI is okay. So, you, the human artists, will compete with AI machines. I just felt like I should bring that up because it's something that a lot of people, unfortunately, don't read the rules. But I encourage you to read the rules before you give your money away to a film festival, including mine. Not that I don't want it, but not in that premise. So,
And
The honesty is appreciated.
Levi, there wasn't an app I remember like 2015, 2016 called Magisto.
oh yes,
It was pretty popular then. I don't know what it's like
it was
now.
an
but
online app thing.
Yeah.
Called Magisto?
Magisto, Magisto. And you could upload.
Where have I been? This is crazy to me.
You could upload your video. You can choose a song, and you hit the edit button, and then you wait about a minute or so. It emails you telling you your video is ready. You can make up to a minute of a video, and then you look at it like, oh, this is okay. I'll give it 4 stars. Oh no, it's not. Oh, it's actually turned out bad. Give it 2. Remix it, and until you're satisfied with it. Yeah, I used to use it.
I think I'm too anal to do something like that. I am such a perfectionist that I could never do that. Like,
but you could,
I think it
you
uses
could tell,
like
'cause
audio to really.
some of like the faces would be cut off after a while. Like faces would be cut off.
Sure.
Or it wouldn't capture things quite
wow.
like you would do it. If you're editing it yourself. But
Yeah.
if you wanted to put a 60-second video,
We'll take the photos of my film festival event photos, and it would put together this thing with a little tune. I always change the tune and replace some photos
Sure.
and things like that. And it's
Yeah.
quick and,
I mean, I guess I've seen that, like the albums where it like makes
Yeah.
a suggestion, and I'm like, oh, that's cute
Yep.
and clever.
Yeah.
But I
don't
never
hate
really
those.
like.
But you don't want to submit that into
that's-
a film festival.
No,
course
absolutely
not.
not.
But,
Like,
if you think about, people in business, right? As opposed to hiring, an editor to do
An
take their
editor,
footage
yeah.
and produce a little montage for them to put on their YouTube or something like that. Why not? Right?
yeah. Wow.
So
Wow, the
Yeah.
things you
Welcome
learn
to 2023,
on Fade
man.
into film.
It's a way. It's a
Fade
way.
into film.
And video producers have been pretty upset about this a long time ago, not just because of that, but also because of the whole iPhone thing and smartphone things. It's like, oh, well, you know, that restaurant owner now has, you know, their teenage daughter. This is not me. I'm okay with that. But they have their teenage daughter filming with their smartphone, and they're putting together these little videos, and they're using that on their website to sell their food menu when we charge $50,000 for a 10-minute video, and it just puts them out of business. It's been, you know.
But that's the same thing with, like, you know, how it was before, right? When filmmaking was like a rich man hobby.
Yeah.
Now then digital came out.
Yeah.
You know, like, right? Because, like,
And
you know,
that's
I know
what
you
I-
guys were talking
yeah.
about how who, like, you know, like the digital film with Collateral, but, like, you know, like John Woo made the first like, you know, digital film back in like '93 called Red Wolf. And they were doing that in New York. You know, it was like it wasn't like a full feature, but, like, you know, that was the thing they were pushing. You know, for since, like, China wasn't really able to, like, compete with Hollywood in terms of making blockbuster films
Right.
because of budget, and digital film comes out and they were doing it. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah, making it more accessible.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right, everybody.
interesting.
This is it.
All
This
right.
is for reals now. We've all been hanging out at the parking garage by our cars, saying goodbye to each other for the last 45 minutes.
Yeah,
It's a Minnesota goodbye.
Is that what that is?
that was adorable.
Hey, say goodbye to our listeners, guys.
See you next week.
Bye.
See you next
Bye.
time, listeners.
See you in 2 weeks.